All right, good evening, everyone. This is Town of Sheldon Selectboard and Water Commissioner meeting for Monday, July 14th of 2025. Under agenda for new business, we have grand list errors and omissions, animal control officer, highway personnel, town administrator's report. We need to sign and approve minutes of the June 23rd meeting, payroll warrant 2526, accounts payable warrant 31698. Got an excess weight permits to do. Under old business, we have the Mill Street sewer project, salt shed project, and hazard mitigation plans. Is there anything else that we need to add?
And Nick mentioned going into executive session at the end of today's meeting.
For highway personnel?
I believe, no, I think it's for another discussion.
Okay.
At the end, and then exit
We'll
back.
be in executive, so
Yep.
for that, we'll just stay in, discuss. Anything else we gotta add to that, Matt?
I don't believe so.
Okay. All right, we'll get right in with this grand list. Does this need to be signed, or?
Again, so this is a thing where I think what Justin prefers to do may be a bit different from what you guys have done in the past. I think the way the select board has done this in the past is we just waited until the end of the year and let these build up, and then at the end of the year we approve them all at once. But I think Justin wants to get this done so that when you set the tax rate, probably at one of the next two meetings, that the grand list will reflect these errors, so that there'll be a more accurate tax grand list before we do the calculation on it. So this is mostly having to do with the fact that the Cattell estate got rid of their mobile home park, and so there's only 2 mobile homes there instead of 5, and so there's less property there than there was before. I think that's the changes that are in there. They in process while we were doing the evaluations earlier this year, and they also, I think they should have filled out a couple of demolition permits when they did that, and they didn't do that. So Justin,
were they demolished or were they drawn?
I think some of them were demolished. I think they were demolished.
I think there's one that I saw that got taken, but yeah.
So there's a spot for signature here.
Oh, yeah, there is, okay. All right. We'll look at that
first.
and then we can have a motion to approve.
Just looking ahead to the grand list again, I have to wait until after this is done, but the last rough math I did on it. First of all, the state announced the education tax rates, and I believe that the overall education tax rate in Sheldon is going to go down very slightly. I think. I think it's mostly the non-homestead rate is going to decline a little bit. And then the last quick math I did on the municipal rate is it's going to increase just a little bit from last year. So it's about equal to the amount that it's reducing on the education side.
Sure.
I don't have the exact numbers, but I did that math about a week ago, just because somebody asked me about it. And anyway, it looks like we're going to be we'll see what happens when these errors and omissions are included. But again, that'll be on the agenda for either next meeting or the first meeting in August.
Okay.
Instead of the tax rate.
All right, can we get a motion to accept these errors and omissions?
I'll make the motion.
Second on that?
Yeah, second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Just you? Just one person? Well, I guess we could all sign it.
Yeah, we can all sign it. And we'll do these now. Did you get another bid on that salt shed?
No, I talked to Seth about it and he hadn't heard from me about it yet, so I don't know if we wanted to take action on that, on the 2 bids that we have, or wait for.
Should get going on it.
Yeah.
That, silver backup I had on High Street, I had to flush that out and that was fine after that.
As far as I know,
Yeah.
that's been solved.
Okay.
About that exactly, but I gotta talk to Jamie about it quick. That's how long it was resolved, but I can speak to it. We did, not to get into my report early here, but we did fix a couple of water leaks in last time I talked to Hubert before he left. The water was way down, the usage was way down from what it was before, so that seems like that's probably where our water was going this spring. Excuse me.
Leaks in the springs or in the creek?
Well, we had fixed one down, a couple weeks ago, we had fixed one on Shawville. And then there was one over here on the Bouchard Road that they were fixing when they had the backhoe. They went over, or when they had the excavator running, they went over
Yeah.
that. So I'm guessing the one on the Bouchard Road was more substantial, but they probably under a lot was going.
I had trouble over there a few years ago.
Yeah, right. And it was hard to see because it was going into the ditch. It was all full of,
Yeah.
overgrowth, so it was always wet anyway, so you can see why it was wet. Yeah, the one over on Shawville, I don't think was that was a significant leak over there. It was only, the only problem 2-inch line, it was an odd-sized line. So they had some difficulty getting, they made it work, but we didn't have parts available for it, but they made it work, I guess, yeah.
Duct tape.
Yeah, and they also, so when they went down and fixed changed the culvert on, over here on Hill Street for Tom, well, first of all, when we turned the water off, we figured out that the water also sort of, I don't know if it went to the store over there, that people living in those apartments, Linda's went home. But probably their water was off, because Shrivers, who were supermarkets, their water was off too. So we thought the water went out just to those 2 houses out on Hill Street, but it sounded like it was being all those houses, which makes a lot more sense why Tom didn't have any water pressure.
Right, yeah.
So they got some, I forgot if it was 1.25 or 1.5 line and laid it in the ground over there for, it's not hooked, they re-hooked up the line. They broke, first of all, they broke the line when they were cutting the culvert out.
Yeah.
But they put the existing line back together, but they also laid in a larger one. The problem is we'll have to bore under the road to attach it to.
What size is it going under the road? He was gonna check that out.
Yeah, I don't know if he
That-
had done that or not, but I think it needs to be upsized either way.
Okay.
So it's all in the ground, ready to go out there. It's just a matter of we'll have to call and get some prices on the line into the street there to connect it to the curbs. They had to fix the curb stop as well. Doing that, but anyway, it makes a lot more sense now. I didn't have any water out there. It's just
Yep.
5, well, however you want to count those apartments. It was more than just 2 houses on that water
Right.
line. So,
Yeah. Yeah, and that water leak on the Bouchard Road, I don't know what we want to do about that because it was another situation where it was past the curb stop before the meter, so whether we should, I mean, by rights, it should be, by the policy, it really should be on, we should be billing that to the homeowner, but it didn't leak. They did tell us about it, and we had gone over there before, and we had found it or something, so I don't know how the town wants to deal with that, if we should just, the town should just take a mold on that one or not, but that's sort of what I was thinking we should do with the kids. Yeah.
They had asked us to look at it before, we just couldn't find the leak, so. And we had the excavator was most of the cost there, and we already did that for another reason, so.
Yeah.
So I thought that would, it's just hour and a half of labor or whatever it was. I guess I'll give you the rest of what I got here.
Sure.
So, we followed up with our, we had the, League of Cities and Towns, our insurance had come out here back in April, they had some recommendations for us, and so I had forgotten to get back to them to tell them what we had fixed, all that. There's really just, I think there's only one thing that we need to do, which is that there's some file cabinets in the sewer plant that are sort of in front of the breaker panel over there, and it's not a problem for Hubert, but the fellow doing the inspections is about 4'10", so he was right that being able to reach the breaker box would be kind of hard, so. And I've been meaning to get over there and talk to Hubert about whether we can relocate some of those files over here in the town office or get rid of them or something so we can get a smaller file cabinet over there. I don't know how much he needs, but.
Yeah, I
Anyway,
know
that's sort of-
what's in there.
Right, exactly. And the problem is there's not like you can't really move them somewhere else. There's not a lot of space in that
No.
sewer plant, so. Anyway, that's the one that we have. We got rid of this. We had a wooden ladder here and we had to put a shelf. We had to brace one of the shelves in the library and there were some little things like that. We got an eye wash station for the sewer system, for the sewer plant. And, we ordered a lockout tagout kit for the highway department. That was the big one we're working on. Is having a better policy for lockout tagout on equipment. So we got to review that. But I mean, all in all, we're doing pretty well on that. this week they're, the LCT is sending an appraiser out to appraise our municipal property. So they're gonna look here at the town office, the garage, the sewer plant, the water house. So
Just for insurance
I
coverage.
think that's for insurance appraisal, so, I'll be going out with them, I think that's on Wednesday. We need to update our, we have a registration with the federal government for their, sort of clearinghouse for grants administration. So I don't know how long we've had the registration for, but it's gonna expire in September. But basically, when we receive grants and when we report them out, this registration helps us to deal with that. It's also the registry where we go to look for. You're supposed to look and make sure that none of the companies you're dealing with are blacklisted by the federal government or by the state governments, and that's where we find out that information. So it does have a cost associated with the registration. It's gonna run out in September. 1 year is about $600 for the registration, and 5 years is about $2,000. But it is cheaper to do a 5-year than it is to do 1 year. So I figured we probably would do the maximum registration on that, but I would run it by you guys before I went ahead and did that. So it's a one-time fee we'd be paying this year, and then we wouldn't be paying it again for another 5 years.
And that allows us to be able to get grants and.
Right, yeah, this is for, so when we did our, so the, any of the grants that we get that have federal money in them, we have to report through that system, and it helps us to do that. Currently, the scoping grant we got for Sheldon Springs, for the sidewalk project, I think that has some federal money in it. I think that's the only one we have right now that has federal money in it. We had a grant for down here at the Bristol Park, but it ended up being way under budget for what, well, between the time that they approved the grant and the time we started spending the money, inflation went up about 10%. Several years, there wasn't enough money in the grant to pay for what the grant was supposed to be for, so we agreed to just let it go. So anyway, those were the only 2 federal grants we had right now, and of course, federal grant programs are kind of in flux right now, but I think that there's still plenty of federal grant money that we use sometimes for the fire department or other things where I think in the next 5 years it's likely that we'll be at least trying to get another federal grant of some sort. So I don't have an invoice for you, but I just want to let you know if I should apply for that registration, then we'd be paying the bill later this year.
Yeah.
Yeah, 5 years sounds like a good idea.
Okay.
And we're gonna
All right.
continue to do that. Does that have anything to do with like FEMA and anything like that as well?
Yeah, I'm not sure if it's not quite the same system as their reporting we do for
Okay.
FEMA, but I think they all interface together somewhat.
At least they should.
Yeah. So as I mentioned, we did the project up here a couple weeks ago where we rented an excavator. We had started that project when you guys talked to Seth last time we met. We did some stone lining on the ditch on Pleasant Street, and kind of cut the bank down here at the top of Bridge Street and move that material over so that the culvert on where the culvert is on Pleasant Street, we might be able to move Seth would like to move those guardrails and have it a little wider there.
Yeah.
Probably let it settle for a while, but and then as I mentioned, we went over on Hill Street and did a culvert project over there, including installing about, I don't know, 300 feet of water line over there that we will complete later this year. As I mentioned, those water leaks, and one was on Chawville Road and one on Bouchard Road, and after those were fixed, I don't know, a couple days later, I talked to Hubert, and the water usage was down to, I wanna say 40,000 gallons a day, which is, we were up in the 60s, most of the 60 or 70,000 most days since the spring, so that's a big relief on the pumps, I think. I think we do need to come up with a strategy for having some way to audit the water system so we can figure out if there is a leak, we can isolate where it is. I know who would like us to consider possibly putting a meter of some sort right where on 105 where the historical marker is. There's a pull-off right by the Oregon farm, and I think the water line, there's a catch basin there and a manhole. Hubert thinks that might be a good place to put a water meter so that we could see how much water is going to Sheldon Springs versus the village. And we could start to identify where more water is going if we need to. I think over time, if we could do something like that where we had a water meter on the major branch lines, we might be able to, if we're missing water somehow, or we're using a lot of it, we can maybe use that to figure out how it's going.
Yeah, a little easier to pinpoint where to look.
Yeah, right. So we'll have to come up with a plan for that, but I think that's what I'd like to work on. 1 meter a year or something like that might be a good, build it up over time.
Yeah.
One thing I'm working on is updating our road ordinance. A couple things I noticed on that is that I think I mentioned before, somebody called me last year about speeding on Dillon Road, and I looked at the speed ordinance and noticed that that road wasn't on there. So I think there's only a couple roads that aren't on the speed ordinance, but they should be. I think some of the, in some cases, there's a conflict between the signs that we have up and the post and the speed limit that's listed in the ordinance. So maybe we need to revisit that.
Yeah.
I'm not saying we need to rewrite it from scratch, but just make some
No, we
edits.
updated that.
Right, it wasn't too long ago. It was when Bob was the sheriff. I think,
Yeah.
Right, yeah. And then the only other thing is that I think I mentioned a couple meetings ago, we've had a few incidents with parking over the last year, mostly in the town turnarounds. And I think, there's a way to interpret the policies, the ordinance, so that it's, because we do put up no parking signs in those areas, but sometimes they're not there anymore, or they're not easy to read, and I think it needs to be laid out more clearly in the ordinance that parking in the turnaround is prohibited, period. Because right now it doesn't really read that way. It kind of reads as, where the highway department has put up no parking signs, you're not allowed to park. And you're not allowed to park in the, middle of the road, et cetera, but it doesn't specifically say can't park in a town turnaround or in a cul-de-sac, in a roundabout, whatever you want to call it. So there's a few things in there I'd like to clear up. The other, some other road policy things I've been looking at, just because we've had some complaints from a couple of different homeowners about, complaints about some washout issues regarding their driveways, but also other places where every time there's a storm, we have to go out and with the sweeper and clean off debris that's coming out of somebody's driveway. And I noticed that the town of Georgia, for example, has a policy where if your driveway has a certain slope at the end of it, they require you to pave it for, about 4 or 5 feet before it comes onto the town right away, so that I suppose that's to alleviate some of that gravel washout. I don't know if we want to consider, that would be more, I don't think that would be in an ordinance, but it might be something to consider as a town policy going forward, just to mitigate some of those issues that we have. And then there's another thing that I don't think is really clear. Part of this is that the highway road standards are addressed both in the we have adopted as a sort of ordinance the road and bridge standards, but then we also have road and bridge standards in our zoning bylaws. So the sort of road standards and the rules of the road, so to speak, in Sheldon are kind of divided among 3 different places between our speed ordinance, our road and bridge standards, and the zoning laws. And one thing that isn't really clear in there is somewhat our policy regarding private roads. We do require that when there's a house that in the zoning bylaws, it requires that when you add a 3rd house to a road, to a driveway, it becomes a private road and it needs to be run up to standards, but and then for every house needs to have a new E911 address. But there's, for example, no, it's not clear in there, does that road now need to have a road sign? Who's paying for the road sign? Things like that aren't addressed in there. And I know some towns, again, have a policy, a specific policy regarding private roads. They might even require that they have a turnaround for the fire truck, for example. They also have, some towns have policies regarding class 4 roads. In general, if it's class 4 road, it only means the town is supposed to maintain it 1 season a year. And in general, that's sort of what we do with our class 4 roads. If somebody calls us and they want us to come up and grade it in the summer, we do that. But I have seen examples where towns are a bit more concrete in what they say they're gonna do compared to those less traveled roads, either private roads or class 4. So anyway, just to let you know, that's something I think the road ordinance needs to be fixed for those minor reasons, but there are things that come up. And then while we're talking about that, Mike brings forward some policy ideas if you want to discuss those. The planning commission's moving forward again with the bylaw update. I think, I'm not exactly sure where they're at with that, but I think within a month or so they'll be done with that process. As I mentioned, there's on the agenda that we did receive the final plans finally for the sewer project, which I printed a large format over there, but there's a smaller one there to look at. It's pretty much the same thing that we looked at last time. The idea with that would be to, I think the idea is still to try to put that out for bid this month. In theory, we'd be reviewing those bids in August. Hopefully we find a contractor who want to do it this year, but seems as likely as not now that we probably may be talking about next spring instead of this fall. Trying to meet with Robert, the engineer, this week to go over that. Excuse me. We have a couple of visitors here who want to discuss with me first.
Why don't I get these minutes done here?
Okay.
And then, it goes with everybody. Town of Sheldon Selectboard Water Commissioner Special Meeting Minutes.
Oh, should be regulars.
Regular meeting minutes from June 23rd of 2025. In attendance from the Select Board with Maria Davison, Stephen Dodd, Nicholas Norris, Richard Piazzi, and Greg Stebbins. Others here with Seth Cattell, the Highway Foreman, Matt Stebbins, Town Administrator, and Nancy West. Called the meeting to order and read the agenda. Added to the agenda was approval of the June 9th minutes. Seth Cattell delivered the highway report. An excavator has been rented for the week and the work began with stone lining of the ditch on Pleasant Street. Rest of the project includes cutting the bank on that bridge in Pleasant, filling shoulders near the culvert on Pleasant Street to allow wider guardrails, placing a culvert on Hill Street, and laying a larger water line. A water leak on Bouchard Road will also be repaired. Small leak on Shelville Road was repaired last week. Steve Purley has mowed Class 2 roadsides and will be finishing Class 3 roads soon. There are driveway culverts to be replaced on East Sheldon Road and Rice Hill Road. Hot mix patching was done last week. Matt McCrae is taking a welding class this week. Hydraulic and AC work was done on the backhoe, and the grader is scheduled for service in July. 804, the board took up the Historical Society building use policy. With the second floor renovations nearly complete, the society is considering allowing individuals and groups to use the building for events. The proposed policy includes insurance requirements for outside users and has been vetted by the town attorney. 806, Nancy West addressed the board regarding speeding concerns in Sheldon Creek and requested that speed bumps be placed on Pleasant Street. 809, I read the minutes from the June 9th meeting. Board signed payroll warrant 2523, accounts payable warrant 31694, and excess weight permit for Cascades Transportation Incorporated. Rick moved to approve the minutes as read, seconded by Maria, and the motion carried. 820, the board took up and signed the annual financial plan for town highways and road and bridge network inventory. 825, the board took up the Mill Street sewer project. Matt is waiting for the final redesign plans from Otter Creek Engineering. The plan is to apply for a state permit by July 1st and then send out invitation to bid by July 15th. Project may need to be pushed to next year if contractors are not available for the fall. 8:30, the board discussed the 2025 fire truck lease agreement. The truck was delivered on June 14th. Matt reported that People's Trust Company had offered to refinance the lease at a lower rate. This will be reviewed before the next payment is due. 8:35, the board took up discussion on the Sheldon School land. The board felt that the issue was not presented well to voters at town meeting. Matt proposed having the town and school hold meetings to take public input on what should be done. 8:40, the board took up the draft local hazard mitigation plan. Towns are required to adopt a plan in order to be eligible for FEMA assistance. Matt explained how the committee had met to consider the likely risk and impacts of potential natural disasters. After town adopts a plan, it will be reviewed by the state. I read the proposed resolution to adopt the plan. Nick moved to adopt the resolution regarding the draft local hazard mitigation plan, seconded by Greg. Motion carried with 5 members in favor and none opposed. 8:47, Matt delivered the town administrator's report. Bouchard Home and Office will begin this year's IT improvements soon, including replacing the office firewall, new computers for Hubert and Seth, and moving water computer to public search and eliminating the zoning computer. With Fidium installing the fiber network, Matt will be reviewing the town's internet and phone services soon. Grievance hearings were held last week and result letters will be sent out this week. Matt discussed recent post about policing on the Sheldon Community Facebook forum. 9 o'clock, Nick moved to enter executive session to discuss highway personnel, seconded by Rick, and the motion carried. 10 o'clock, Nick moved to exit executive session, seconded by Greg, and the motion carried. No action was taken but to end executive session. 10:01, Nick moved to adjourn the meeting, seconded by Rick, and the motion carried with all in favor. Next regular meeting is July 14th at 7:30. Take a motion to accept these minutes as read.
I'll make the motion.
Second on that?
Second.
All right. All in favor? Must be, nobody opposed? Sign that copy and we'll be good. And there. All right, let's, we wanna put the camera on pause and go out and check out the truck.
Sure, we could do that. Yeah. Recess.
We would just recess for a minute, Jerry, and we'll be right back. All right, we're back in our regular meeting here. Animal control officer. We got on that.
So Adam came to visit me last week, or week before last, I should say, because he's interested. He had heard that we had an opening, which we do, because Cody Bombardier was our current animal control officer, had let me know that he'd be moving out of town. I haven't got a formal resignation letter from him, but I didn't ask it until pretty late, so I wouldn't get that from him. But as far as I'm concerned, the position is vacant, so.
Yep.
Anyway, he and I had a conversation about it a little bit, but I forgot to get him to fill out an employment application, so I can have him do that afterward, but we want to talk about it now. We talked about what the position entails with the dog ordinance that we have. Kind of went over, obviously it fluctuates a lot. The last year, I think we paid Cody about $300 last year, something like that, but that was only for about half a year of doing it, but we could have been more than that, I'm sure, depending on what arises.
Yeah.
Our ordinance really only covers dogs, but people call it other animals too, so. Anyway, we went over the procedures for if there's a dog hearing. We did do one of those last year. And just talk about stray dogs and possibly having the ability to, keep dogs at its owner for a short period of time if we can't find the owner. And talk about how when we're working on the salt shed project, maybe when that's done, we may have some kennel space over there. We'd like to see if we can do that. But in the meantime, it would be good if we could have an animal control officer who could keep a dog for a short amount of time.
Yeah.
But anyway, so we had that discussion, of course, and then I was out of town, so I haven't been able to get a lot of materials to Adam, but anyway, I'll let Adam talk for himself here. So,
Okay.
sorry, yeah. Go ahead, Adam. Sorry.
So I have a good relationship with the community. I have a barn with some animals in it, so I have shelter where I could put a dog in a kennel or a cage or something I could set up there if I needed to.
Yeah.
I'm on call with the fire department, so I answer my phone at any time, night or day. I work just in Fairfield, so if there's any issues.
Yeah. The majority of the issues are solved pretty easily, but
Yeah.
once in a while you have one and probably you'll have to keep for a while or something, but you'd be willing to do that at your house?
Yeah.
Without any problem?
Yeah, I
Because
could
we
fix
can,
something up.
we've been talking about doing, a kennel over at the garage, because my daughter was the animal control officer for a while there, and she didn't, she's got young kids, so she didn't want stray dogs at her house besides her own dogs, and we talked about doing something over there, and we just never gotten to it. But if you had the ability to do something temporary and you wanted, something over there or whatever, I think that could be worked out pretty easily.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, in in the long run, it would probably be easier with a salt shed if there was something, but in the meantime, I can, if I needed to, I could come up with something
Okay,
in the barn,
yeah.
as long as I don't eat all the chickens.
Make sure you got a good secure place for it.
Yeah. Got any questions for me?
Is there any trainings or anything
There is a,
available?
yeah, I think there was a training, unfortunately, it was like a month ago, but I think there is a webinar recorded of it that, and I know that they have so I think there was one specifically on animal control. I can't remember who did that, if it was the League of Cities and Towns or another group. But I know the League of Cities and Towns has another training that's on ordinance enforcement specifically, and a lot of it has to do that. The dog control ordinance, very common ordinance that people have. And I've taken that training myself before, so I could send that to. I think they're holding another one later this year, but if not, I know they have to report it, and I can send that to them. They're happy to take a look at it.
That part of it, the enforcement and dealing with the hearings and stuff, don't stress on that too much because we'll sit in on all those.
Okay.
You know, if there's a dog that needs to be taken out of the home because of different separate violations or whatever, you know, the board will sit on all those hearings and you wouldn't be out there on your own. And then, and as far as that goes, any place if you have to go that, you know, you don't feel comfortable going, you call the sheriff's department and they go with you.
Yeah.
And so we've had that before. And, you know, it's just to keep peace in town and stray dogs from running around, but you don't have to, you know, risk your own safety for anything that isn't up to par there.
What did we have on agreement with the previous animal control officer in terms of, you know, if he gets bit by a dog while he's doing something in town, covered by our insurance for whatever may happen, mileage to calls, from calls, logging things, but to get.
We do pay mileage for going to things. Actually, Cody asked for a little bit more mileage just because he was coming from work a lot of the time. But we didn't have any specific policy in writing regarding if we're injured or anything. I think we just fall under the town's workers' comp arrangement. I'd have to discuss that with insurance, I guess, to figure that out. But
Yeah.
it's not a whole lot of hours a year.
No, but it's just the incident related, not ours.
Right. So I'd have to figure out, but I assume that he would be covered by the general workers' comp policy. But
We can check on that.
Yeah, I'll check that out. Yeah. And if we need to, we can have some agreement on that. But we did not have an arrangement like that with the previous officer. Although, like I said, we did increase the mileage a little bit because he needed more than we had budgeted to get to things. But I don't think with that being closer to nearby, I don't think that'll be an issue, really. And really, we didn't use very much of the, I think we budgeted 5,000 for the animal control officer, we spent maybe 500, so.
Nope, just wanted to check to make sure we had those things in place. In case Adam was like, yeah, dude, I am interested in that.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you could put a package together for him so he can look at it and then if you've got anything that, questions on anything there.
The other thing we talked about just briefly is if he ever has to issue a ticket or something according to the ordinance, I already have all the tickets, I would just need to register him with the judicial bureau so he could be the officer issuing those. And if he was comfortable, he could go down, if we ever had it, we didn't, I had Cody all signed up to do that, we never actually issued a ticket because the people we were gonna issue a ticket to moved out of town. If that ever happened, if he was comfortable with it, he could go down and, prosecute those at the traffic court if he wanted to, or otherwise I would go to it. So,
Yeah.
Anyway, I don't anticipate that being a big part of the job, but it is.
The perfect opportunity to work that position into burn ordinances.
Right, yes, I need to, that's another thing I need to look at too.
Or just make it the constable's duties.
Right.
There you go.
Right.
Blue light
Scaring him off. He's
off.
looking for an animal control officer here.
No, the only other question I had was when Morgan did it, didn't we have some sort of like allowance for gear? Like if she wanted to go buy some gloves that were, protective gear, like just send the town the receipt and we'll reimburse her for protective gear related to the job.
I think there is a miscellaneous category as well, isn't
I
there?
feel like we might have mentioned that to her at some point, or one of the previous animal control officers.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I think
something to think about as well.
Yeah. We do have a couple of dog crates over there at the garage, but yeah, if we need something else, a leash, a lead or something like that, or, gloves or something, I think that wouldn't be hard to get a hold of.
Yeah.
Okay. But yeah, we can get a package together and see how you feel about it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
All right.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
Thanks, Adam.
Thank you,
Have a
Adam.
good night.
So, this Mill Street project, that's going forward, so we don't have to do anything on that tonight, right?
I don't think so, as long as if there's anything in those plans that you wanna have me discuss with them, I can do that, but
Okay.
as far as I can see, it's,
What's, where are we with that hazard mitigation? plan?
so that was, you guys have approved that, and she sent it to, she being Stephanie, that was sent to the state, and it's now available for public comment. There's an open public comment period from now until 2 weeks from now. And I think at that, it will be reviewed by, the emergency management, people with the state. And assuming that they approve that, it will then be sent to FEMA, I think, for the final. I think most of the work on it has been completed. We'll see how, if there's something from the public comment period that where Stephanie needs to do more work on it, that's that, but I think for the most part, it's just a matter of allowing it to be approved. So she and I talked about the process of closing that grant out soon, just because it does expire in September, so. So, anyways, that it seems to be going through the way it should, and I don't anticipate there being a public comment on it, but we'll see what happens.
So anything that we need to have like a public meeting about for public comment, or is it like a?
I think it's,
Phone
we
calls
need to publish that it's available for public comment. It's sort of a notice and comment process as opposed to having a public hearing specifically on it.
Okay. I guess we'll do executive session then. We've got everything else covered, do we need?
Make a motion to go into executive session, discuss highway.
Okay. Second on that?
Yep.
You guys didn't sign anything while I was gone, did you? Did you guys already sign the warrants and everything? So I gotta sign that. So is this the last thing on the agenda?
Yeah.
Then I would amend that motion if possible, that we enter executive session and then upon exiting the executive, we adjourn the meeting.
Okay. And I got a second on that, all right?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, we're good for the evening, Jared.